The sound of an axe biting into wood cut through the pre-dawn darkness, and Owen Ashford reined in his horse halfway down the mountain trail, listening to the steady rhythm that spoke of exhaustion rather than skill. He had been riding through the night, trying to reach Truckee, California before the next snowfall hit these Sierra Nevada mountains, but something about that sound pulled him off course, toward the small homestead tucked into the pine trees where lamplight glowed yellow against the November cold of 1876. He approached quietly, his breath misting in the frigid air, and saw her there in the clearing behind a rough-hewn cabin. She could not have been much older than 20, her dark hair escaping from a hasty braid, her shoulders trembling with each swing of the axe that was clearly too heavy for her frame. The pile of split kindling beside her was pitifully small for the effort she had put in, and Owen could see even in the weak light that her hands were raw and bleeding. "Madam," he called softly, not wanting to startle her. She whirled around, the axe raised defensively, and he saw the fear flash across her face before she registered that he had stopped a respectful distance away, his hands visible and empty except for the reins. "I do not want trouble," she said, and her voice shook with cold and something else, something desperate. "We have nothing worth taking." "I am not here to take anything," Owen said, dismounting slowly. "I heard the axe and thought maybe you could use some help. That is all." She stared at him for a long moment, her gray eyes searching his face as if trying to determine whether he was telling the truth. Up close, he could see that she was younger than he had first thought, maybe 19 or 20, with a face that would have been pretty if it were not so drawn with exhaustion and worry. Her dress was patched and worn, and she had wrapped her hands in strips of cloth that were now dark with blood. "I can manage," she said finally. But even as she spoke, the axe wavered in her grip. "I am sure you can," Owen replied, "but you do not have to. Let me split that wood for you. You look like you could use some rest." "I cannot pay you." "Did I ask for payment?" She bit her lip, and he saw her waver. The cold was brutal, and the pile of wood she had managed to split would barely last through breakfast. "Why would you help a stranger?" "Because I was raised to," Owen said simply, "and because I have split enough wood in my life to know that axe is too dull and too heavy for you. Please, let me help." Something in his tone must have convinced her, because she lowered the axe slowly and took a step back. "My father usually does this, but he is sick. Very sick. I have been trying to keep up with everything, but there is so much, and I do not sleep much anymore, and—" Her voice trailed off, and Owen saw her sway slightly on her feet. He closed the distance between them in 3 quick strides and caught her elbow gently. "When did you last eat?" "Yesterday. Maybe the day before, I cannot remember." "All right," Owen said firmly. "Here is what is going to happen. You are going to go inside, check on your father, and get some rest. I am going to split enough wood to last you through the week. Then we will figure out what else needs doing. Does that sound fair?" She looked up at him, and in the growing light of dawn, he could see tears gathering in her eyes. "I do not even know your name." "Owen Ashford. I am a ranch hand, usually work down in the valley, but I have been traveling. And you are?" "Willow Garrett." She pronounced it carefully, as if the simple act of introducing herself was something she had not done in a very long time. "We have been here 3 years, my father and I. He worked as a logger, but then he got hurt, and then he got sick. And now?" "Now you are doing your best to hold everything together," Owen finished. "I understand. But you cannot do it all alone, Miss Garrett. You will work yourself to death." "What choice do I have?" The words came out as barely more than a whisper. Owen picked up the axe and tested its weight, frowning at the dull blade. "Right now your choice is to go inside and rest. Let me handle this. We can talk about the rest later." Willow hesitated for another moment, then nodded slowly. "Thank you, Mr. Ashford. I do not know why you are being kind, but thank you." She turned and walked toward the cabin, her steps unsteady, and Owen watched until she disappeared inside. Then he turned his attention to the woodpile, rolling up his sleeves despite the cold. The axe was in terrible condition, but he had worked with worse. He fell into the steady rhythm of splitting wood, his muscles remembering the motion from countless mornings on his family's ranch back in Wyoming before he had struck out on his own. The sun rose slowly over the mountains, painting the snow-capped peaks in shades of pink and gold. Owen worked steadily, building up a substantial pile of kindling and larger logs, enough to keep the cabin warm for several days. His horse, a patient bay gelding named Red, stood tied to a nearby tree, occasionally snorting in the cold air. When Owen finally stopped, the sun was well up, and he had worked up a good sweat despite the freezing temperature. He stacked the wood neatly near the cabin door, then knocked softly. Willow opened the door, and he was relieved to see that some color had returned to her cheeks. She had changed into a slightly less worn dress and had re-braided her hair. "You did all that?" "It needed doing," Owen said. "How is your father?" Her face clouded. "Sleeping. He has been sleeping more and more lately. The doctor from town said there was nothing more he could do. It is just a matter of time now." "I am sorry," Owen said, and meant it. Willow nodded, swallowing hard. "Would you like some coffee? It is the least I can offer after what you did." "Coffee would be good, thank you." She stepped back to let him inside, and Owen entered the small cabin, ducking slightly under the low door frame. The interior was sparse but clean, with a wood stove in one corner, a rough table with 2 chairs, and 2 beds separated by a curtain. On one of the beds, Owen could see the shape of a man, his breathing labored even in sleep. Willow poured coffee from a pot on the stove into 2 tin cups and handed one to Owen. Her hands, he noticed, were freshly bandaged. "I am sorry I do not have anything to offer with it. We are running low on supplies." "When were you last in town?" Owen asked, wrapping his hands around the warm cup. 2 weeks ago, maybe 3. I sold what I could, bought what we needed most, but the money is running out and winter is coming and I do not know what we are going to do." She said it matter-of-factly, as if she had already accepted her fate. Owen studied her over the rim of his cup. She was trying so hard to be brave, to hold everything together, but he could see the cracks forming. "You have any family you could go to? Anyone who could help?" "No, my mother died when I was 12. My father and I, we have always been just the 2 of us. He came out here hoping to make enough money to buy a real house, maybe even a small ranch. But then the accident happened, and then the sickness came. And now." She trailed off, staring into her coffee. "What about friends, neighbors?" Willow shook her head. "The nearest neighbor is 5 miles away. People around here keep to themselves mostly, and I am not—" She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I am not good at asking for help." "I noticed," Owen said dryly, and was rewarded with a small smile. "You are the first person in months who has offered," Willow said softly. "Everyone else just looks away when they see me in town, like poverty might be catching." Owen set down his cup, anger flickering through him at the thought of this young woman struggling alone while her neighbors turned their backs. "Well, they are fools then. And you are not alone anymore, at least not today. What else needs doing around here?" "Mr. Ashford, you have already done so much." "Owen. Call me Owen. And I am not going anywhere just yet. I was heading to Truckee to look for work, but there is work right here that needs doing. So tell me, what else needs attention?" Willow looked at him for a long moment, and he could see her weighing her pride against her need. "Need 1. The roof is leaking in 2 places. There's a section of fence that came down in the last storm, and I've been worried about animals getting in. The well pump is making a strange noise, and I need to hunt, but my father is too weak to use his rifle anymore, and I have never learned how." "All right," Owen said. I can fix the roof and the fence today. The pump I will need to look at. And I can teach you to shoot, though hunting takes practice. But first, you're going to eat something." "I told you we do not have much—" "I have supplies in my saddlebags," Owen interrupted. "Let me get them." He went outside and retrieved his bags, pulling out jerky, some hardtack, coffee, and a small sack of beans. It was not much, but it was more than Willow had. Back inside, he set about making a simple meal while Willow protested weakly. "You need that for yourself," she said. "I can restock in Truckee. You need it now." He ladled beans onto 2 plates and handed her one. Eat. You cannot take care of your father if you collapse from hunger. They ate in silence for a while, and Owen could see Willow practically inhaling the food. When was the last time she had eaten a proper meal? He made a mental note to bring back more supplies from town. Why are you doing this? Willow asked finally. You do not know us. You do not owe us anything. Owen considered the question carefully. My mother died when I was 16. My father tried to hold the ranch together after that, but his heart was not in it. He started drinking, stopped caring. I watched him give up, piece by piece, until there was nothing left. I could not help him. He did not want to be helped, but maybe I can help you. I am sorry about your father, Willow said quietly. It was a long time ago. Owen stood and collected the plates. Now let me take a look at that roof before the next snow hits. He spent the rest of the morning on the roof, patching the leaks with materials he found in a small shed behind the cabin. The work was cold and tedious, but satisfying. Willow came out periodically to check on him, bringing him more coffee and insisting he take breaks. You are going to fall off and break your neck, she called up at one point. I have been on roofs since I was 10 years old, Owen called back. I think I can manage. That is what my father said right before his accident. Owen climbed down the ladder and found Willow standing with her arms crossed, worry etched across her face. I will be careful, he said more gently. I promise. You should not make promises you cannot keep. Then I will keep this one. They looked at each other for a moment, and something passed between them, some understanding that went beyond words. Then Willow nodded and went back inside. By afternoon, Owen had finished the roof and moved on to the fence. The work was hard and cold, but he had always found satisfaction in working with his hands, in fixing things that were broken. As he worked, he found himself thinking about Willow, about the quiet strength she had shown in the face of impossible circumstances. She was not looking for pity or handouts. She was simply trying to survive, to care for her dying father with dignity and grace. The sun was setting by the time he finished the fence, and he was exhausted and hungry. He put away the tools and headed back to the cabin, where he found Willow stirring something in a pot on the stove. I made soup, she said, not looking at him. It is not much, just some of the beans you brought and some vegetables from the root cellar, but it is hot. It smells wonderful, Owen said honestly. They ate together again, this time with more ease between them. Willow told him about growing up on the move, following her father from one logging camp to another. Owen told her about Wyoming, about learning to break horses and herd cattle, about the open spaces and big skies he had left behind. Why did you leave? Willow asked. Same reason most people leave, I suppose. Looking for something different, something more. My father died 2 years ago, and there was nothing left for me there. So I started drifting, picking up work where I could find it. Do you ever regret it? Leaving? Owen thought about that. Sometimes, but I think I would regret staying more. What about you? Do you regret coming here? Willow was quiet for a moment. I used to. When my father first got hurt, when the money started running out, I was angry. I thought he had dragged me out here for nothing. But now, she glanced toward the curtained area where her father lay sleeping. Now I'm just grateful for the time we have had. Even if it ends badly, at least we were together. It does not have to end badly, Owen said. You are strong, Willow. Stronger than you know. You will get through this. Will I? She looked at him with those gray eyes that seemed to see right through him. What happens when my father dies? What happens when the money runs out completely? What happens when winter really sets in and I am here alone with no food and no way to earn more? What then, Owen? He did not have an answer for her, not one that would not sound hollow or meaningless. So instead, he reached across the table and took her hand, careful of the bandages. Then we will figure something out. Together. You barely know me. I know enough. Willow pulled her hand back gently. You should not make promises like that. You have your own life to live. I cannot ask you to give that up for a stranger. You're not asking. I am offering. Why? It was the same question she had asked that morning, but now it carried a different weight. Owen met her eyes and answered honestly. Because when I saw you this morning swinging that axe in the dark, barely able to stand, I saw someone who refused to give up, someone who kept fighting even when everything was stacked against her. And I thought, that is someone worth helping. That is someone worth knowing. Willow's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. You are a strange man, Owen Ashford. I have been told that before. A sound from behind the curtain made them both turn. Willow was on her feet in an instant, hurrying to her father's bedside. Owen followed more slowly, giving them space. The man on the bed was thin and pale, his breathing labored, but his eyes were open and alert as he looked at his daughter. Willow, girl, who is that? His name is Owen, Papa. He has been helping with the chores. The man's eyes found Owen, and there was suspicion there, and worry. Helping? Why? Because it needed doing, sir, Owen said, stepping forward, and because your daughter has been trying to do it all alone. I did not ask for charity. Good, because I'm not offering any. I'm offering help. There is a difference. Robert Garrett studied him for a long moment, then began to cough, a deep rattling sound that shook his whole frame. Willow was there immediately with water, helping him sit up enough to drink. When the coughing finally subsided, Robert lay back against the pillows, exhausted. Papa, you should rest, Willow said softly. I have been resting, Robert said. What I should do is get up and take care of my daughter instead of lying here useless. You are not useless, Willow said fiercely. You are sick. There is a difference. Not much of one from where I am lying. Robert looked at Owen again. You planning to stick around, or are you just passing through? I had not decided yet, Owen said honestly. I was heading to Truckee to look for work, but your daughter here seems to have plenty of work that needs doing. I cannot pay you. Did not ask you to. Then what do you want? The question was blunt, edged with the protectiveness of a father who knew he could not protect his daughter much longer. Owen met his gaze steadily. Right now? Nothing. I want to help because it is the right thing to do. Beyond that, I have not thought much about it. Robert studied him for another long moment, then nodded slowly. All right. But if you do anything to hurt my girl, I will find a way to come back and haunt you. You understand me? Papa, Willow said, horrified. I understand, Owen said gravely, and I give you my word, I will not hurt her. Good. Robert lay back, his eyes already closing. That is good. Willow waited until her father was asleep again before turning to Owen. You should not have told him that. Why not? Because now he will think there is something between us and there is not, and he will get his hopes up and... She trailed off, wrapping her arms around herself. And what? Owen asked gently. And I do not want him to die thinking I will be all right when I do not know if I will be. Owen wanted to pull her into his arms to tell her everything would be fine, but he knew she would not believe him. So instead, he said, how about we take this one day at a time? Today the wood is split, the roof is fixed, and the fence is mended. That is 3 problems solved. Tomorrow we can tackle 3 more, and the day after that 3 more. Eventually, we will run out of problems. That is not how life works. Maybe not, but it is how we are going to approach it anyway. Willow looked at him, and for the first time since they had met, he saw something other than exhaustion and worry in her eyes. Hope, maybe, or at least the possibility of hope. You really are a strange man. So you keep saying. Where are you going to sleep tonight? Owen glanced toward the door. I have a bedroll. I will be fine in the barn. The barn is falling apart and full of holes. You will freeze to death. I have slept in worse places. Owen. She said his name firmly as if making a decision. There is space here by the stove. It is not much, but it is warmer than the barn. I do not want to impose. You are not. You have earned a warm place to sleep tonight, take it. He could see she would not be argued with, so he nodded. All right, thank you. That night, Owen lay in his bedroll near the stove, listening to the sounds of the cabin settling around him. He could hear Robert's labored breathing from behind the curtain, could hear Willow moving quietly as she prepared for bed. It was strange being here, in this small cabin with these people he had just met, but it also felt right somehow, like this was where he was supposed to be. He thought about what Robert had said about hurting Willow. The truth was, Owen could not imagine hurting her. In just one day, she had gotten under his skin in a way no one had in years. He admired her strength, her determination, her refusal to give up even when giving up would have been the easier path. And more than that, he liked her, liked the way she challenged him, the way she looked at him like she was trying to figure him out. This was dangerous territory. Owen had learned long ago not to put down roots, not to get attached. It was easier that way, easier to keep moving to avoid the pain that came with loss. But lying there in the darkness, listening to Willow's soft breathing from across the room, he wondered if maybe it was time to stop running, time to stay in one place and see what grew. The next morning, Owen woke before dawn and slipped outside quietly. The air was crisp and cold, and the sky was just beginning to lighten in the east. He checked on Red, making sure the horse had enough feed and water, then set about taking stock of what else needed doing around the homestead. The list was long. The barn needed major repairs if it was going to provide any shelter for animals through the winter. The root cellar needed shoring up. The chicken coop was empty, and Owen wondered what had happened to the chickens. There were a dozen other small repairs that needed attention, the kind of maintenance that kept a homestead running but required constant vigilance. He was examining the barn when Willow found him. She had 2 cups of coffee and handed him one without a word. They stood together in the cold morning air, drinking coffee and watching the sun rise over the mountains. "You do not have to stay," Willow said finally. "You have already done so much, more than anyone had a right to expect." "I know I do not have to," Owen said, "but I want to, if you will let me." "Why, though? What are you getting out of this?" Owen turned to face her fully. "Honestly, I do not know yet, but I do know that I have spent the last 2 years drifting from place to place, never staying anywhere long enough to matter, and I am tired of it, Willow. I am tired of being alone. I am tired of not mattering. So maybe what I'm getting out of this is a chance to be part of something again, a chance to help someone who needs help, a chance to matter, even if it is just for a little while." Willow was quiet for a long time, her eyes searching his face. "My father is dying," she said finally. "Within a month, maybe 2, I will be alone. I have no money, no prospects, no way to keep this place running. If you stay, you need to know that. You need to understand what you are walking into." "I understand." "Do you? Do you really understand what it is like to watch someone you love waste away, knowing there is nothing you can do to stop it? Do you understand what it is like to be so tired and scared and alone that you cannot even remember what hope feels like?" "Yes," Owen said simply. "I watched my father drink himself to death over the course of 2 years. I understand exactly what that is like." Willow's expression softened. "I am sorry. I should not have said that." "You have nothing to apologize for. You are scared. You have every right to be." "I am terrified," Willow admitted, her voice breaking. "I am so terrified, Owen, and I do not know what to do." This time Owen did pull her into his arms, and she let him, burying her face against his chest as the tears finally came. He held her while she cried, feeling her shake with sobs that came from somewhere deep inside, the kind of crying that came from holding everything in for too long. When she finally pulled back, her eyes were red and her face was blotchy, but she looked somehow lighter, as if crying had released some of the pressure that had been building inside her. "I'm sorry," she said, wiping at her eyes. "Stop apologizing for being human," Owen said gently. "You are allowed to be scared. You are allowed to cry. You are allowed to need help." "I am not used to needing anyone." "I know, but maybe it is time to get used to it." They stood there in the cold morning air, and something shifted between them. Some barrier that had been holding them apart dissolved. Willow looked up at him, and Owen looked down at her, and the moment stretched out full of possibility and promise. "I am glad you found me splitting wood that morning," Willow said softly. "So am I." Over the next few weeks, Owen fell into a routine at the Garrett homestead. He spent his days working on repairs, hunting for food, and making trips to Truckee for supplies. Willow spent her days caring for her father, whose condition was deteriorating steadily, and helping Owen wherever she could. They talked while they worked. Long conversations about everything and nothing. Owen learned that Willow had taught herself to read from her father's old books, that she loved the mountains in autumn when the aspens turned gold, that she had once dreamed of being a teacher. Willow learned that Owen had a gift with horses, that he preferred coffee black and strong, that he had a dry sense of humor that caught her off guard and made her laugh. And slowly, carefully, they fell in love. It happened in small moments. The way Owen made sure Willow ate breakfast every morning, the way Willow mended a tear in his shirt without being asked, the way they moved around each other in the small cabin, anticipating each other's needs without speaking, the way Owen sat with Robert in the evenings talking to him about ranching and horses, giving Willow a chance to rest. Robert noticed, of course. Despite his illness, he was still sharp enough to see what was developing between his daughter and the cowboy who had appeared out of nowhere. One evening when Willow had gone to the root cellar, he called Owen over to his bedside. "You love her," Robert said. It was not a question. It was Owen considered denying it, then decided there was no point. "Yes, sir, I do." "She loves you too, though she has not admitted it yet." "I know." "You planning to marry her?" Owen met the older man's eyes. "If she will have me, yes." Robert nodded slowly. "Good. That's good. I need to know she will be taken care of after I'm gone." "I will take care of her," Owen promised. "You have my word." "I know you will. You are a good man, Owen. I saw that the first day. But there is something you need to know?" Robert paused, gathering his strength. "This place, it does not have much value. The land is rough, the cabin is falling apart, and I have debts. When I die, those debts will need to be settled. There will not be much left over. I do not care about that. You should, because Willow will. She has pride, that girl. She will not want to come to you with nothing." "Then I will have to convince her that she is enough," Owen said, "that she is more than enough." Robert smiled faintly. "You are a good man. I wish I had more time to get to know you, but I'm grateful you found us when you did. I am grateful Willow will not be alone." "She will never be alone again," Owen said. "I promise you that." 2 weeks later, Robert Garrett died peacefully in his sleep. Willow woke to find him still and cold, and her scream brought Owen running from the barn where he had been tending to Red. He held her while she grieved, and he was there when they buried Robert on a small rise overlooking the valley, beneath the pine trees he had loved. The funeral was small, just Willow, Owen, and the minister from Truckee. Willow stood straight and silent through the service, her hand clutched tight in Owen's, and when it was over she turned and walked back to the cabin without a word. Owen found her later, sitting at the table with her head in her hands. He sat down beside her and waited, knowing she needed to process this in her own way and her own time. "He is really gone," Willow said finally. "I knew it was coming. I have known for months, but now that it has happened, I do not know what to do. I do not know who I am without him." "You are Willow," Owen said gently. "You are strong and brave and stubborn as hell. You are the woman who kept fighting when anyone else would have given up. You are the woman I love." Willow looked up at him, her eyes red from crying. "You love me?" "I have loved you almost from the first moment I saw you," Owen said. "And I know this is terrible timing and you are grieving and you probably need time, but I need you to know that you are not alone. You will never be alone again if you do not want to be." "Owen, marry me," he said, the words tumbling out before he could second-guess himself. "I know this is fast. I know we have only known each other a few weeks, but I have never been more certain of anything in my life. Marry me. Willow, let me take care of you. Let me love you the way you deserve to be loved." Willow stared at him, tears streaming down her face. "You do not know what you are asking. I have nothing to bring to a marriage. No dowry, no land, no money, just debts and grief and a run-down cabin that is barely standing." "I do not want any of that," Owen said fiercely. "I want you, just you. That is all I have ever wanted." "What if I am not enough? What if you wake up one day and realize you made a mistake?" Owen took both her hands in his. "That will never happen. You are everything, Willow, everything I did not know I was looking for. Please, say yes." Willow looked at him for a long moment, and he could see her weighing everything, considering all the reasons to say no. But then finally she nodded, "Yes. Yes, I will marry you." Owen pulled her into his arms, holding her tight, and felt something settle in his chest, some restless part of him finally finding peace. "I promise I will spend every day for the rest of my life making sure you never regret this decision." "I do not think I could regret it even if I tried," Willow said, her voice muffled against his chest. "You are the best thing that has ever happened to me, Owen Ashford." "No," Owen said, pulling back to look at her. "You are the best thing that has ever happened to me." They were married a week later in a small ceremony in Truckee, with the minister and his wife as witnesses. Willow wore her mother's wedding dress, which she had carefully preserved, and Owen wore his best shirt and pants. It was not fancy or elaborate, but it was perfect. After the ceremony, they returned to the homestead, which Owen had been quietly working to improve. He had spent the last week making repairs to the cabin, fixing the worst of the problems, and making it into a place they could truly call home. That night, lying in bed together for the first time as husband and wife, Willow turned to Owen and said, "Thank you." "For what?" "For finding me, for helping me, for loving me, for all of it." Owen kissed her forehead gently. "You do not need to thank me for loving you. That is the easiest thing I have ever done." They fell asleep in each other's arms, and for the first time in months, Willow slept without nightmares. Over the following months, they worked together to build a life. Owen took a job at a ranch nearby, working as a ranch hand and bringing in steady income. Willow continued to maintain the homestead, and together they slowly transformed it from a place of struggle and sadness into a real home. Owen proved to be as good as his word. He was patient and kind, supporting Willow through her grief over her father's death, while also encouraging her to look toward the future. They talked late into the night about their dreams and plans, about the life they wanted to build together. Willow, for her part, blossomed under Owen's love and care. The exhaustion and fear that had marked her face when they first met slowly faded, replaced by joy and hope. She learned to shoot, as Owen had promised to teach her, and became quite skilled at hunting small game. She started a garden, planning for the spring planting, and slowly, carefully, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, everything would be all right. The winter was hard, as winters in the Sierra Nevada always were, but they faced it together. When snow piled up against the cabin walls, they stayed warm by the fire, talking and planning and learning each other in the way newlyweds do. Owen taught Willow to play cards, and she taught him the songs her mother had sung to her as a child. One evening in late January, as they sat by the fire after dinner, Willow said, "I've been thinking." "About what?" Owen asked, looking up from the saddle he was mending. "About my father's debts, about what we owe and how we're going to pay it off." Owen set down the saddle. "We will pay it off the same way we do everything else, together, one step at a time." "I know, but I want to do more. I want to contribute more than just maintaining the homestead. I was thinking maybe I could take in sewing. I am good with a needle, and there are people in Truckee who might pay for alterations and mending." "That is a fine idea," Owen said. But you do not have to do that, Willow. The money I am making is enough for us to get by. Getting by is not enough, Willow said firmly. I want us to thrive. I want to pay off the debt so we can start fresh with nothing hanging over us. And I want to do my part to make that happen. Owen looked at her with pride and admiration. You are an amazing woman, you know that? Willow smiled. I am learning. So Willow started taking in sewing, and word spread quickly through Truckee about her skill and fair prices. Soon she had more work than she could handle, and the money she earned went directly toward paying off Robert's debts. It gave her a sense of purpose and pride, and Owen loved seeing the confidence grow in her with each passing week. By spring, the debts were nearly paid off, and they had even managed to save a small amount. Owen started talking about expanding the homestead, maybe buying some chickens and a milk cow, perhaps even a few head of cattle if they could manage it. We could make a real go of this place, he said one evening as they walked together along the property line. Build it into something substantial. You really think we could do that? Willow asked. I know we can. Look at everything we've accomplished already. 6 months ago, you were barely surviving. Now look at us. We have a solid roof over our heads, food in the larder, money coming in from 2 sources, and we are nearly debt-free. If we can do all that in 6 months, imagine what we can do in a year, or 5 years, or 10. Willow leaned against him, and he wrapped his arm around her shoulders. I love you, Owen Ashford. I love you too, Willow Ashford. They stood there together, looking out over the land that was slowly becoming theirs, and Willow felt something she had not felt in a very long time. Peace, and more than that, joy. The bone-deep joy that came from being loved and loving in return, from having a partner to face the world with, from knowing that no matter what came, they would face it together. In April, Willow discovered she was pregnant. She told Owen over breakfast one morning, her hands shaking slightly as she poured his coffee. Owen, I have something to tell you. He looked up from his plate, immediately alert to the nervousness in her voice. What is it? Is something wrong? No, nothing is wrong. At least I do not think so. I hope not. She took a deep breath. I am going to have a baby. Owen stared at her for a moment, the words not quite registering. Then understanding dawned, and his face broke into the biggest smile she had ever seen. He was on his feet in an instant, pulling her into his arms. A baby? Really? Really, Willow said, laughing and crying at the same time. Are you happy? Happy? Willow, I am beyond happy. This is the best news I could have imagined. He pulled back to look at her, his hands gentle on her face. How are you feeling? Are you all right? Do you need to sit down? I am fine, Willow said, laughing at his sudden nervousness. Women have been having babies since the beginning of time. I will be all right. I am going to take care of you, Owen said firmly. You are not going to lift a finger. I will do everything. Owen, I am pregnant, not dying. I can still work. But you should not have to. You should rest. I will rest when I need to, Willow said, touching his cheek gently. But right now, I need to live my life. I need to keep working and planning and building our future. The baby will not come for months yet. We have time. Owen wanted to argue, but he could see the determination in her eyes and knew better than to fight her on this. All right, but you will tell me if you need anything? If you are tired or not feeling well? I promise. The pregnancy progressed smoothly, and Willow continued working through the summer, taking in sewing and helping Owen with the homestead. They bought chickens and a milk cow, and Owen built a proper chicken coop and expanded the barn. Slowly but surely, the homestead was transforming into a real working ranch. By the end of summer, the debts were paid off completely, and they were free and clear. They celebrated with a special dinner, and Owen presented Willow with a gift, a beautiful wooden cradle he had been working on in secret. Owen, it is beautiful, Willow said, running her hands over the smooth wood. When did you have time to make this? I have been working on it for weeks whenever you were busy with your sewing. I wanted it to be perfect. It is perfect. You are perfect. She kissed him long and sweet and felt the baby kick between them. Oh, did you feel that? Owen's eyes went wide as he felt the movement against his hand. That is our baby? That is our baby. They stood there together, marveling at the life they had created, and Owen felt a surge of love so strong it almost brought him to his knees. This woman, this life they were building together, this baby on the way, it was everything he had never dared to hope for. In late October, on a crisp autumn morning when the aspens were golden against the blue sky, Willow went into labor. Owen, who had been calm and collected through everything they had faced together, turned into a nervous wreck. What do I do? Should I get the doctor? Should I boil water? Why do people always boil water? What is that even for? He paced back and forth while Willow breathed through a contraction. Owen, she said when the contraction passed, I need you to calm down. Go to Truckee and get Mrs. Henderson. She has delivered half the babies in this county. She'll know what to do. I do not want to leave you. I will be fine for the hour it takes you to get there and back. Now go, please. Owen went. Riding read faster than he ever had before and returned with Mrs. Henderson, a capable woman in her 50s who took one look at Willow and immediately took charge. You, she said, pointing at Owen, go chop wood or something, make yourself useful, but stay out of my way. But out. Owen spent the longest hours of his life pacing outside the cabin, listening to the sounds from inside and feeling utterly helpless. He chopped wood, though they had plenty. He fed the animals, though they had already been fed. He paced and worried and prayed. Finally, as the sun was setting, he heard a new sound, a baby crying. Mrs. Henderson opened the door and smiled at him. Come meet your son, Mr. Ashford. Owen entered the cabin on shaking legs and found Willow propped up in bed, exhausted but radiant, holding a small bundle wrapped in blankets. She looked up at him and smiled. We have a son, she said softly. Owen sat down carefully on the edge of the bed and looked at his child for the first time. The baby was tiny and red-faced and perfect. He is beautiful. You are beautiful. I love you both so much. Want to hold him? Willow asked. Owen took the baby carefully, afraid he might break something, but his son settled into his arms as if he belonged there. The baby opened his eyes, dark blue and unfocused, and looked in Owen's general direction. Hello, little one, Owen said softly. I am your father, and I promise you, I am going to do everything in my power to give you a good life, to keep you safe, to teach you to be a good man. I promise. The baby yawned, unimpressed by these grand declarations, and Willow laughed softly. What should we name him? They had discussed names for months, but had never quite settled on one. Now, looking at his son, Owen knew. Robert, after your father, if that is all right with you. Willow's eyes filled with tears. That is more than all right. Thank you, Owen. He would have loved him, Owen said, gently tracing the baby's tiny features. He would have been so proud to have a grandson. He would have been proud of you, too, Willow said, for taking care of us, for being the man you are. They sat together, the three of them, as darkness fell outside and the first stars appeared in the sky. Mrs. Henderson bustled around, cleaning up and preparing food, and then tactfully retired to sleep in the barn, giving the new family their privacy. That night, with his wife and son sleeping peacefully beside him, Owen reflected on the strange path his life had taken. A year ago he had been drifting, alone and aimless. He had been planning to pass straight through these mountains without stopping, but then he had heard the sound of an axe in the pre-dawn darkness, had seen a young woman struggling against impossible odds, and everything had changed. He thought about that morning often, about finding Willow exhausted and desperate, trying to split wood before sunrise, about taking the axe from her hands and insisting she get some rest. Such a small thing, really. But it had changed both their lives completely. The next few months were chaotic, as new parents everywhere discovered. Baby Robert was colicky and fussy, and there were many sleepless nights. But Owen and Willow faced it together, taking turns walking the floor with their crying son, supporting each other through the exhaustion and frustration. As winter set in again, they settled into a routine. Owen continued working at the ranch, and Willow continued her sewing when she could, though much of her time now was devoted to caring for Robert. The homestead thrived, and they were able to save money steadily. One evening in February, a year and a day since Owen had first arrived at the homestead, they sat together by the fire while baby Robert slept in his cradle. Willow was mending one of Owen's shirts, and Owen was working on repairing a saddle. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you had not stopped that morning?" Willow asked suddenly. Owen looked up. "What do you mean?" "I mean, if you had just ridden past, if you had ignored the sound of the axe and kept going to Truckee, what would have happened to me?" Owen set down the saddle, giving her his full attention. "I do not know, but I'm glad I will never have to find out." "I think about it sometimes," Willow said softly. "I think about how close I was to the edge that morning, how exhausted I was, how scared, how alone. And then you appeared, like something out of a dream. You took the axe and told me to rest. Such a simple thing, but it changed everything." "You would have survived," Owen said. "You are strong, Willow, stronger than you think." "Maybe, but I do not think I would have lived. Not really. I would have survived, but I would not have been alive. Not the way I am now." She set down her sewing and looked at him. "You saved me, Owen, not just that morning, but every day since. You gave me a reason to keep fighting. You gave me hope." Owen crossed to her and knelt beside her chair. "You saved me, too. I was so lost before I met you. I had no purpose, no direction. I was just drifting through life, never staying anywhere long enough to matter. But then I met you, and suddenly everything made sense. Suddenly I had a reason to stay, to build something, to put down roots. You gave my life meaning, Willow." She touched his face gently. "We saved each other." "Yes," Owen agreed. "We did." Baby Robert chose that moment to wake up and cry, and they both laughed. Owen stood and went to pick up his son, cradling him gently. "What do you think, little man? Did your parents save each other?" Robert gurgled and grabbed at Owen's finger with his tiny hand. "I think that is a yes," Willow said, smiling. As spring arrived again, bringing green grass and warm sunshine, Owen and Willow made plans for the future. They wanted to expand the ranch, to buy more cattle and perhaps some horses. Owen had a dream of breeding horses using the skills he had learned growing up in Wyoming. "We could do it," he told Willow one evening as they stood together looking out over their land. "We have the space, and I have the knowledge. If we started small, bought a few good mares and a decent stallion, we could build a breeding program. In a few years, we could be known throughout the territory for quality horses." "It sounds wonderful," Willow said, "but it also sounds expensive." "It would be, but we could save up, take our time, do it right. We have already come so far. What is a little further?" Willow squeezed his hand. "All right, let us do it. Let us build something amazing." Over the next few years, that is exactly what they did. They saved every spare penny, and when Robert was 2 years old, they bought their first breeding mare, a beautiful bay with excellent bloodlines. Owen named her Hope because that was what she represented: hope for the future, hope for their dreams. The ranch grew slowly but steadily. They added more cattle, more chickens, and eventually more horses. Owen's reputation as a horseman spread, and people started coming from miles around to buy horses bred on the Ashford Ranch. The money came in steadily, and they were able to make real improvements to the homestead, building a proper barn and expanding the cabin into a real house. When Robert was 4, Willow gave birth to a daughter they named Rose. She was smaller than Robert had been, with Willow's gray eyes and Owen's dark hair. Robert was enchanted with his baby sister and appointed himself her protector from day one. "I keep her safe, Papa," he announced seriously. "Nobody hurts Rose." "That is right, son," Owen said, ruffling his hair. "That is your job now. You are her big brother. Life was good. The ranch thrived. The children grew healthy and strong, and Owen and Willow's love deepened with each passing year. They had their challenges, of course. There were harsh winters and dry summers, sick animals and crop failures, injuries and illnesses, but they faced everything together, and somehow that made even the hard times bearable. On their 5th anniversary, Owen took Willow back to the spot where he had first found her, splitting wood in the pre-dawn darkness. They stood there together, watching the sun rise over the mountains. 5 years, Willow said softly. It feels like both forever and no time at all. I know what you mean, Owen said. Sometimes I can barely remember what my life was like before you, and other times it feels like I've known you my entire life. Do you ever regret it? Stopping that morning, staying with me? Owen turned to face her fully. Never. Not for one single moment. You are the best thing that has ever happened to me, Willow. You and our children and this life we have built together. I would not change any of it. Not even the hard parts? Not even the hard parts, because the hard parts made us stronger. They taught us what we are capable of, and they made the good parts even better. Willow leaned against him, and they stood there in comfortable silence, watching the sun climb higher in the sky. In the distance, they could hear Robert and Rose playing, their laughter carried on the morning breeze. I love you, Owen Ashford, Willow said. I love you too, Willow Ashford, today, tomorrow, and always. They returned to the house hand in hand, ready to face whatever the day brought, secure in the knowledge that as long as they had each other, they could handle anything. The years continued to pass, marked by the changing seasons and the growth of their children. Robert grew into a capable young boy who loved working with the horses as much as his father did. Rose was quieter, more thoughtful, but no less passionate about the ranch. She had a gift with the animals, able to calm even the most skittish horse with just her voice and gentle touch. When Robert was 8 and Rose was 4, Willow discovered she was pregnant again. This time she was calmer about it, having been through it before. Owen, however, was just as nervous as he had been the first time. What if something goes wrong? He worried. What if, Owen, Willow interrupted gently, everything will be fine. We have done this before, remember? We know what we are doing. I know, but no buts. Trust me, trust us. We are going to be fine. And they were. In the spring, Willow gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl they named Samuel and Sophia. The birth was more difficult than the previous ones, and there were a few scary moments, but in the end, both babies and mother came through healthy and strong. Twins, Owen said, looking at his 2 new children with wonder. We have twins. We have 4 children, Willow corrected, laughing. 4 children, Owen. We are outnumbered now. We can handle it, Owen said confidently. We can handle anything. And they did. The house was chaotic and loud with 4 young children, but it was also full of love and laughter. Robert and Rose helped with the twins, and Owen and Willow divided the work between them, supporting each other through the exhaustion and chaos of raising a large family. The ranch continued to prosper. Owen's horses were in high demand, and Willow had expanded her sewing business to include custom work for wealthy clients in San Francisco. The money flowed in steadily, and they were able to save and invest, securing their family's future. But more than the financial success, what mattered most was the love they had built. Their home was a place of warmth and welcome, where friends and neighbors knew they would always find a hot meal and a listening ear. Owen and Willow had created exactly what they had dreamed of, a place to belong, a family to love, a life worth living. One evening when the twins were about 3 and Robert was 11, the whole family sat together after dinner. Robert was reading to the younger children, and Willow was working on a piece of embroidery while Owen repaired a bridle. It was an ordinary evening, the kind they had had hundreds of times before, but something about it struck Owen as particularly perfect. He looked around at his family, at the home they had built, at the life they had created, and felt a surge of gratitude so strong it brought tears to his eyes. Willow noticed and set down her embroidery. Owen? What is wrong?" "Nothing is wrong," Owen said, smiling through his tears. "Everything is right. Everything is so incredibly right. I was just thinking about that morning all those years ago when I heard an axe in the darkness. I was just thinking about how different my life would be if I had ridden past, and I am so grateful I did not. I am so grateful for every choice that led me to you, to our family." Willow crossed to him and took his hands. "I am grateful too. Every single day I wake up grateful that you stopped, grateful that you helped me, grateful that you loved me. Always," Owen said. "I will always love you, and I will always love you." Robert looked up from his book. "Are you crying, Papa?" "Happy tears, son, just happy tears." "Why are you happy?" Owen pulled Willow close and looked at his children, gathered around the fire in their warm home. "Because I have everything I ever wanted. Because I am blessed beyond measure. Because I have you." Robert seemed satisfied with that answer and went back to reading. The twins snuggled closer to their big brother, and Rose smiled at her parents before turning her attention back to the story. As the years continued to roll by, the Ashford Ranch became one of the most successful in the region. Owen's horses were sought after throughout California and beyond, and Willow's embroidery work was displayed in fine homes across the West. But more than their business success, the Ashford family was known for their kindness and generosity. They helped neighbors in need, took in travelers who needed shelter, and always had time for those who were struggling. Willow never forgot what it had been like to be desperate and alone, and she made sure that no one in their community had to face what she had faced. She organized charitable efforts, coordinated help for families in crisis, and became a pillar of strength in Truckee. Owen, meanwhile, took young men under his wing, teaching them the skills they needed to make a living in the West. He remembered what it had been like to be adrift and aimless, and he made sure to offer guidance and support to those who needed it. Their children grew up strong and capable, learning the values of hard work, compassion, and integrity from their parents. Robert became a skilled horseman like his father, with a particular talent for training difficult horses. Rose developed her mother's head for business and took over managing the ranch's finances when she was still in her teens. The twins, Samuel and Sophia, were inseparable and worked together seamlessly, whether they were tending cattle or helping with the horses. When Robert was 18, he fell in love with the daughter of a neighboring rancher, a sweet girl named Clara. Owen gave his blessing readily, remembering how young he had been when he met Willow. The wedding was held at the Ashford Ranch, with the whole community in attendance, and it was a joyful celebration of love and family. Rose married 2 years later to a young lawyer from Truckee who treated her like a queen. Samuel and Sophia, ever inseparable, eventually moved to Sacramento together, where Samuel became a veterinarian and Sophia opened a successful dress shop. As their children grew up and started families of their own, Owen and Willow found themselves entering a new phase of life. They were grandparents now, with a growing number of grandchildren who filled the ranch with laughter and chaos during visits. One evening, as they sat together on the porch watching the sunset, Willow said, "We did well, did we not?" "We did better than well," Owen replied. "We built something amazing. A family, a legacy, a life worth living. I could not have done it without you. And I could not have done it without you." They sat in comfortable silence, holding hands and watching the sky turn from gold to pink to purple. In the distance, they could hear the horses moving in the pasture, could smell the pine trees in the approaching night. "Do you remember that first morning?" Willow asked, "when you found me splitting wood?" "I remember every detail," Owen said. "The way you looked so exhausted you could barely stand. The way you raised the axe when you saw me, trying to look fierce even though you were terrified. The way your eyes filled with tears when I offered to help. I remember all of it." "I was so scared that morning," Willow admitted. "So tired and scared and alone. And then you appeared, and everything changed. You took the axe and told me to rest, and I thought you might be an angel." Owen laughed. "Nobody has ever accused me of being an angel before." "You were mine," Willow said softly. "You were my angel, Owen. You saved my life." "No," Owen said, pulling her close. "We saved each other. That is what love does. It saves us from ourselves, from loneliness, from the darkness. It gives us a reason to keep going, to keep fighting, to keep hoping. You saved me just as much as I saved you." "Then I am grateful we found each other," Willow said. "So am I. Every single day I am grateful." They sat there on the porch until the stars came out, bright and clear in the mountain sky. Inside the house, lamps were lit, casting warm light through the windows. It was a perfect evening, peaceful and full of contentment. As they finally stood to go inside, Owen took one last look around at the ranch they had built together. The sturdy house, the well-maintained barns, the healthy horses grazing in the pastures, the land that had become their home. All of it had started with a simple act of kindness, with the decision to stop and help a stranger in need. He thought about the young man he had been, drifting aimlessly through life, searching for something he could not name. And he thought about the woman Willow had been, exhausted and desperate, trying to hold her world together with nothing but stubborn determination. They had both been lost in their own ways, but they had found each other. And in finding each other, they had found themselves. As they entered the house together, closing the door against the cold night air, Owen felt a deep sense of peace. This was home. This was love. This was everything that mattered. Years continued to pass, and Owen and Willow grew old together, their love deepening with each passing season. They watched their children raise their own families, saw their grandchildren grow and thrive, and eventually welcomed great-grandchildren into the world. The ranch remained in the family, passed down through the generations, a testament to the love and hard work that had built it. And the story of how it all began with a cowboy who heard an axe in the darkness and stopped to help a desperate young woman became family legend, told and retold to each new generation. Owen and Willow lived long, full lives, surrounded by love and family. When they were both in their 70s, they renewed their vows in a small ceremony attended by their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. It was a celebration of a love that had endured for more than 50 years, a love that had been tested by hardship and strengthened by triumph, a love that had created a legacy that would last for generations. On a crisp autumn morning when the aspens were gold against the blue sky, Owen and Willow walked together through the ranch, taking in the sights and sounds of the place they had built together. They were moving slower now, their steps more measured, but they still walked hand in hand as they always had. "Remember when we first talked about breeding horses?" Owen asked, pausing to lean against a fence and watch the animals grazing. "I remember thinking you were crazy," Willow said, laughing. "We barely had enough money to feed ourselves, and you wanted to buy breeding stock. But we did it. We made it work. We always made it work." They continued their walk, reminiscing about the early days, the struggles and triumphs, the moments of joy and sorrow that had shaped their lives. They talked about their children, proud of the people they had become. They talked about the community they had helped build, the lives they had touched, the difference they had made. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, they returned to the house, tired but content. They sat together on the porch, in the rocking chairs Owen had made years ago, and watched the world go by. "I have no regret," Willow said suddenly, "about anything. Even the hard parts, the painful parts, I would not change any of it, because it all led to this, to us, to our family, to this life." "Neither do I," Owen said. "Every choice, every moment, every challenge, it was all worth it, because I got to spend my life with you. And I with you." They sat in comfortable silence, the kind of silence that comes from knowing someone so well that words are unnecessary. They had built a beautiful life together, filled with love and laughter, hard work and dedication, family and community. And it had all started with a simple act of kindness on a cold November morning. As evening approached, their children and grandchildren began arriving for Sunday dinner. As had become their tradition, the house filled with noise and laughter, with the sounds of family and love. Owen and Willow sat at the head of the table, surrounded by the people they loved most in the world, and felt blessed beyond measure. That night, after everyone had gone home and the house was quiet again, Owen and Willow prepared for bed. As they had done for more than 50 years, they climbed into bed together, fitting against each other perfectly. "I love you, Willow Ashford," Owen whispered in the darkness. "I love you, Owen Ashford," Willow whispered back. "Thank you for saying yes all those years ago. Thank you for taking a chance on a drifting cowboy who heard an axe in the darkness. Thank you for stopping. Thank you for helping. Thank you for loving me. Always. Forever." They fell asleep in each other's arms, as they had for more than 50 years. Two souls who had found each other against all odds and built a love that would last beyond a lifetime. The Ashford Ranch continued to thrive for generations, a testament to the love of its founders. And whenever members of the family gathered, they would tell the story of how it all began with a cowboy named Owen Ashford, who heard an axe splitting kindling before sunrise, took the axe from the hands of an exhausted young woman named Willow Garrett, and insisted she get some rest. That simple act of kindness had changed two lives forever, creating a legacy of love that would endure long after they were gone. Years later, when both Owen and Willow had passed peacefully in their sleep within months of each other, the family gathered to lay them to rest on the hill overlooking the ranch, next to Willow's father. The entire community turned out for the funeral, testament to the impact they had made on so many lives. Robert, now an elderly man himself, stood at his parents' graveside and told the story one more time, the story of the cowboy who found a woman splitting kindling before sunrise, who took the axe and let her rest, who stayed and built a life and a love that inspired everyone who knew them. "My father taught me that love is not just a feeling," Robert said, his voice strong despite his years. "It is a choice we make every day. It is choosing to help when it would be easier to walk away. It is choosing to stay when things get hard. It is choosing to build something together, brick by brick, day by day, year by year. My parents chose each other every day for more than 50 years, and in doing so, they showed us all what true love looks like." As the sun set over the ranch that evening, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, the family gathered in the house for a meal, sharing stories and memories of Owen and Willow. The house was full of laughter and tears, of love and loss, of gratitude for two people who had lived their lives with grace and purpose. And somewhere in the mountains, if you listened carefully, you might still hear the echo of an axe splitting wood in the pre-dawn darkness, a sound that had once drawn a cowboy off his path and changed the course of two lives forever. It was the sound of destiny, of love finding a way, of two lost souls discovering that they were never truly lost at all. They were simply waiting to find each other. The Ashford legacy lived on through the generations, a reminder that sometimes the most important moments in life come disguised as simple acts of kindness, that love can bloom even in the hardest circumstances, and that two people who choose each other can build something that lasts forever. The ranch remained in the family for more than 100 years, a living testament to the love of Owen and Willow Ashford, and the story of how they met, how he found her splitting kindling before sunrise, took the axe, and let her rest became a cherished family legend, passed down from grandparents to grandchildren, a reminder of where they came from and the values that defined them. And so the story ends, not with sorrow, but with celebration. A celebration of a love that began with kindness, grew through partnership, and endured through decades of joy and hardship. Owen and Willow Ashford had lived well, loved deeply, and left behind a legacy that would inspire generations to come. Their story was one of hope and redemption, of two broken people who found wholeness in each other, of a love that proved stronger than any obstacle. In the end, that was what mattered most. Not the success of the ranch or the wealth they had accumulated, but the love they had shared and the family they had built. That was the true measure of their lives, the real legacy they left behind. And it all started on a cold November morning in 1876 when a cowboy named Owen Ashford heard the sound of an axe in the darkness and made the choice to stop and help. That single choice, that simple act of kindness, had rippled out across the years, touching countless lives and creating something beautiful and lasting. The mountains stood eternal above the Ashford Ranch, watching over the land as they had for millennia. The seasons changed, year after year, bringing snow and rain, sunshine and flowers. The ranch evolved with the times, but the heart of it remained the same, a place built on love, sustained by hard work, and blessed by the kind of partnership that only comes once in a lifetime. And if you visit that place today, you can still see the cabin where it all began, carefully preserved by the family as a reminder of their humble origins. You can see the hill where Owen and Willow rest beside Willow's father, their graves marked by simple headstones that bear only their names and dates, and the words, "Together forever." You can walk the land they loved, see the mountains they gazed at every day, and feel the presence of a love that refused to die even when its bearers passed into memory. The story of Owen and Willow Ashford became more than just family history. It became a reminder that love can be found in the most unexpected places, that kindness can change lives, and that two people committed to each other can overcome any obstacle. Their story proved that the greatest adventures do not always involve grand gestures or dramatic moments. Sometimes they begin with something as simple as taking an axe from tired hands and insisting someone rest. And that was the final lesson of their lives, that love is found in the small moments, the everyday acts of kindness and support, the choice to put someone else's needs ahead of your own. Owen could have ridden past that morning. He could have ignored the sound of the axe and continued on to Truckee, but he chose to stop. He chose to help. He chose to care. And that choice made all the difference. So the legacy lives on generation after generation, a testament to the power of love and the importance of kindness. The Ashford Ranch stands as a monument to what two people can build when they choose each other, when they commit to working together, when they refuse to give up even when times are hard. It stands as proof that love conquers all, that family matters most, and that the best things in life come from the simplest acts of human kindness. This is the story of Owen Ashford and Willow Garrett, two lost souls who found each other in the darkness and built a love that lit up the world. This is the story of a cowboy who heard an axe before sunrise and made the choice that changed everything. This is a love story for the ages, a reminder that true love still exists, that happy endings are possible, and that sometimes the greatest journey begins with a single step, or in this case, with taking an axe from weary hands and insisting someone rest. Their love story became legend, their lives an inspiration, their legacy eternal. And somewhere in the mountains of California, in a place called Truckee, you can still feel the echo of that love, still sense the presence of two people who proved that love truly does conquer all. Owen and Willow Ashford lived, loved, and left behind a world made better by their presence. And their story continues to inspire generation after generation, a timeless reminder of what it means to truly love someone completely, selflessly, eternally.